Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Man Views. As always, I'll wait to the very end to share my thoughts and comments. Shout out and credit to Family Court Chaos.
Support in parenting time, Ms. Thomas.
Thank you, Your Honor. In this particular case, the parties have a 5-year-old son, and he's presently residing with plaintiff dad. And he has been since the parties separated on or about January 5th of 2025. That was when the defendant told plaintiff that there was someone else that she'd been seeing. And so the parties separated and the child went with dad. As stated in the plaintiff's motion, defendant has acknowledged that she has no job and is homeless and is without the present ability to provide proper care for the minor child. And she has repeatedly told Mr. Hill that he can have custody. She can't do it right now. She won't fight him. But he's the more stable home. He can provide a home. He can provide food, transportation, get the child to his activities. I'm not sure why for some reason, she was pretty adamant that this not go to court. Obviously, the court's aware of why it has to. There are some very serious concerns regarding defendant and her present mental state. First, her acknowledgement that she needs to get herself together, number one, and then, but more pointedly, that she has recently threatened suicide. And this is not the first time by any stretch of the imagination. She has a history of suicide threats. She's also actually shown Mr. Hill how she would do it. A history of cutting in the past, stating that it's the only thing that she could do to make her feel anything besides numbness. She also has a family history of suicide and suicidal ideation with long-term mental health treatment plans. Prior to the defendant's affair with the neighbor, the parties lived in an apartment provided to the plaintiff by the complex where he works, which meant he was only a phone call away, in which allowed plaintiff to stop in several times a day to check on defendant and the minor child, knowing how easily and how often that the defendant gets overwhelmed by caring for the minor child, and also knowing the frequency of how often that the defendant would call him and ask him to come home right away, because she was overwhelmed. And when she gets overwhelmed, she tends to lash out at the child. Because of defendant's affair with another resident, the plaintiff's employer was concerned about repercussions and assisted plaintiff to find another position within their company, but that it's at a different complex. And so therefore he's no longer has that free rental housing. The defendant has recently cut her parents out of her life, but she has a solid relationship with the plaintiff's parents, and the plaintiff's parents are willing to facilitate defendant exercising parenting time in their home, where they can provide defendant with guidance and support during the parenting time. Plaintiff is aware that defendant at this point is not working. With her current jobless state, she's unable to assist financially at the present time, and he's willing to waive child support on a temporary basis. So therefore, he's asking that he be granted the temporary sole custody and care of the party's minor child, with defendant's parenting time facilitated by his parents as agreed upon between plaintiff, defendant, and plaintiff's parents, with child support held in abeyance on a temporary basis. Based upon the severity of this one, if the circumstances involving defendant and the mental health concerns, if the court so desires, I am more than willing to set up an evaluation appointment for defendant by Dr. Haugen if the court believes that that's appropriate.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Wall, what's your response?
Well, I don't know. I was kind of hoping my lawyer would be here too.
Well, have you hired a lawyer?
I did, yes. And yeah, I
Okay.
did. She emailed me this morning and told me to be here 5 minutes early, and she's just not even here. So,
Who's your lawyer?
her name is Amanda Frost.
Okay, we weren't aware of a lawyer, so I do have Amanda Frost here. I'm sorry.
Okay.
So we gotta go through everything.
Well, we'll see.
Nobody asked me.
Ms. Frost, again, Ms. Thomas spoke to her motion, and we were not aware that you were in. We didn't have an appearance or anything of that nature that had been provided to us. I don't know if it was filed with the clerk, but we didn't have it. So again, we didn't let you in at that point because we didn't know who you were. Okay.
Understood, Your Honor. I was just retained Friday evening and contacted Ms. Thomas yesterday and this morning to let her know I was on the case.
Okay. Well, she didn't apprise us, so.
and I don't have an appearance, and I didn't know she called this morning. I did get an email yesterday, but yeah, it was like, I saw it late last night, so that's the most I know.
Well, in the future, if you get a contact from an attorney, it would be advisable to let the court know that.
Well, I understand, Your Honor, and again, I have no appearance. I have nothing. So I didn't know for sure she was in. I just wasn't positive.
I understand, but as a result, we didn't get her. She wasn't in when you were going through your rendition.
Right.
So it would have helped if you'd have told us that you have been contacted.
No, that's fine. I didn't, again, it was an email yesterday and I didn't even think about it. I just was.
Ms. Frost, what's your response to the motion in this matter?
Yes, Your Honor. Without hearing opposing counsel's argument, I think it's kind of hard to exactly rebuttal against what they're fighting for. I did receive a copy of the pleadings yesterday afternoon and have had a chance to review them. And we strongly object to the relief that's requested in this motion. A answer to the complaint will be filed. My appearance is in the mail. I believe that as a forefront matter, this relief that they're requesting for him to have legal, sole, physical, and her essentially to have supervised custody or supervised parenting time, it is trying to circumvent the Child Custody Act. These parties have been separated for 2 weeks. Some of the allegations that he makes in his motion allude to the fact that she doesn't have a job. Your Honor, she's been a stay-at-home mom for 5 years. She has been the sole provider for this minor child. To penalize her for being a stay-at-home mom and not having enough time to find a job would be unjust and would be against the best interest of the minor child. The established custodial environment is with the mom. She has a safe place to live with the child. She has the means to take care of the child. To say that she is detached from the child as alleged in the motion is a complete blatant lie. She has tried to get her child back from defendant. Defendant will not release the child to her. He's only allowing her to see the child if she comes to his house, where he also tries to initiate romantic involvement with her, which she has distinctly objected to. He has blocked her on his phone numerous times, then unblocked her. He has hung up on video calls between her and the child. So when he says in his motion that he's willing to foster a positive parent-child relationship, that is wholly untrue. She has.
Let's address some of the allegations. Ms. Thomas has stated that she turned the child over to the plaintiff and said that it was best that the child would be in his care, apparently because she had acknowledged she had some suicidal thoughts and acknowledged that she was being evicted as well. So speak to those allegations.
Yes, Your Honor. My understanding of the situation, again, I was just retained on Friday. I've had minimal time really to talk with the client, but my understanding of the situation is that the parties were living rent-free in an apartment provided by the plaintiff's work. When they split 2 weeks ago, he went to the office and told them that she needed to be removed. So she was informed that she had to be out by the 8th of February. So is she facing eviction? No, she is being replaced from her housing because of plaintiff. As for the suicidal ideation, she has not made any indications that or any statements that she wants to self-harm or commit suicide. He has been very harassing towards her, including making threats to get the police involved when they have been working on their split. She let the child go with him for parenting time, intending that the child was going to come back to her, and he has refused to return the child to her.
Okay. Ms. Thomas, any response?
Just briefly, Your Honor. I'm not sure that there's been any due diligence on the part of counsel. I've not worked with her before. I don't know, but certainly the texts and things that I've seen do support what was stated in the motion, and the parties agreed. I mean, he left the home with the child. She knew that. As far as her being a stay-at-home mom, she did not work because she used the child as her buffer to not work. But again, he had to come home regularly during the daytime because that she wasn't really able to do it by herself. As to the eviction situation, that apartment, he worked at the complex where they resided, and that because of her having a relationship with a neighbor, the apartment complex didn't want to have there be any repercussions from any of the residents. So they helped him get a job at another apartment complex at the same company. So because of that, that apartment is no longer going to be a free apartment. Because she was also residing there, they did do a 30-day notice. It has nothing to do, I mean, he's not got an apartment. He's not working at that location. There's no apartment to go with his job anymore because he's not at that job. So she is not going to be able to be there, but it's not because he went and told, because there was an issue between him and a potential issue between him and a tenant. He had to report. He did that. That was what the apartment complex did. So she definitely, it's not like he tried to get her kicked out. That wasn't even how that happened. They said, well, as long as there's a potential issue with the neighbor, we're going to help you get another job. So that apartment is not even going to be there available to either of them.
Okay. Anything else, Ms. Frost?
Yeah, so I'd like to touch on a few things. They're alleging that he had to come home regularly to help her with the child. That again is untrue. He was working at the complex where he lived. If he chose to come home for lunch, great, he came home for lunch. There's one situation in which my client had hit her head and felt that it was safer to have the father come home to make sure that she was okay and that the child was well taken care of. That is what a responsible parent would do. He was not being called and texted regularly to come home to help her. Again, she was a stay-at-home mom at his request, is my understanding, and has been the entire length of the child's lifetime. She did not use the child as a crutch to not have to work. In fact, I've got text messages that verify that she wanted to get the child enrolled in school, and he's the one that wanted to keep the child home, which again prevented her from getting, a suitable employment because the child's home with her and he wanted her to homeschool the child for that year. There clearly is an impasse of ideas that's passing between the two parties, and ordering or awarding temporary custody to the plaintiff is going to do more damage to the child and remove him from a home where he has been primarily with his mother his entire life.
Okay. Well, what the court's going to do is this is just a temporary basis. And obviously, it looks like there's no dispute. The parties did separate on January 5th, 2025. The child is in the plaintiff's custody at this time. The court is going to continue that on a temporary basis. The court gets troubled a little bit by the allegations of suicide on her part, and as well as mental health issues. So the court is going to have her have supervised parenting time at the plaintiff's parents' home 1 day a week on Saturday. It could be Saturday or Sunday, however they want to arrange it, from noon to 5:00 p.m. And Ms. Frost, if you wish to have your client get a psychological assessment and submit that, the court can revisit the matter at that time. Ms. Thomas, you can prepare the order and submit under a 7-day notice of entry.
Okay, Your Honor, just to verify, we are holding support in abeyance, correct?
Yes, the court is not. You stated that your client was willing to waive that in the hearing, so the court will waive that at this time.
Okay. Nope, that's fine. I just wanted to make sure what to further order. Thank you.
Will this be referred over to the front of the court then for further investigation?
No. We will have a hearing at the appropriate time, and I'm not going to burden the front of the court with investigations unless that's necessary.
Your Honor.
You're free to go. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Thanks, you too.
All right. So here's my quick thoughts. Number one, I think the judge was fair. I like how the judge really gave both parties their chances to rebuttal what each other was saying. Here's your chance to defend yourself. And I like her attorney. You know, I think she was very smooth, even though she didn't have that much time to prepare. She just came in the case. But I like that she still came not backing down. She still came as prepared she could be in such short notice. Now for the father's attorney, my goodness, she keeps saying ma'am, I don't know if it's something that's, I don't know. What's your thoughts on that? Because to me, it was really like bugging me out. Like constantly, every single sentence. Don't get me wrong. No one's perfect. Everyone say, majority of people, most people say, when they speak. That's not a problem. But to say consistently, like nonstop like that, to me, I don't know. It kind of threw me off. And as far as the mother goes, I mean, I know they mentioned she cheated before. Folks, if you're in a relationship, don't cheat. Now, overall, I do understand why the judge granted the father's temporary, time sharing, which it makes sense. Number one, the mother and also her attorney then confirmed that the mother had a place to live. It still sounded like she didn't have no place to live when she got removed from the current home, from the previous home she was in with the father. So number one, the child needs a very stable shelter to live in. Number two, you have no place to live. Also too, you've been unemployed for 5 years. Once again, it makes sense to have the father, as of now, have the child for full custody. And then number three, his attorney mentioned that, okay, she have text messages of her saying, she is suicidal. So that is a concern that, the judge have to put into consideration. And I like that he did request her to get a psych evaluation to make sure that, okay, there's nothing going on there. But if she is dealing with that, with mental health is very real. I do hope she does go and get help for the sake of the child, but also for the sake of herself. Overall, to me, it was a pretty much, fair case. But what's your thoughts about all this? What's your thoughts about the judge, both attorneys, the mother, but anyway, as always, comment below, like, share the video, and don't forget to subscribe. Have a good day. Peace.